We continue. We're waiting for our speaker, the president of Lusitania Center of Cultural Unity from Portugal, Lisbon. Anacleto José Manuel was born in Lisbon, in Portugal, works as a legal specialist at the university. He's been studying theosophy since 1979, the editor of the Sophia Journal, and also the president of the Cultural Center. For the first time in Portugal, in Portuguese language, 3 volumes of Helena Blavatsky were published, and the comments for the Secret Doctrine, as well as other publications, such as edition of the Synod of Buddhism and the Arabian, and he's also the author of books, of over 40 books, and he also wrote the excerpt to the Portuguese edition, and he's the author of the exhibition dedicated to Blavatsky in May 2018, and still he is an active participant and organizing such exhibitions. Also the organizer of several congresses, author of hundreds of esoteric theosophy articles. Let's welcome our dear guest from Portugal and his report, The Harmony of Cycles.
Good afternoon. Fraternal greetings to all theosophists. May we all bring wisdom, compassion, joy, and peace to the world. All archaic wisdom, both Eastern tradition and Greek and Hellenical classical antiquity, and their sources of influence were permeated with the notion of the cyclicality of time. The rhythms and rites of life gently align with nature, with the cosmic balance, in the immense conjugation of everything and everyone. The notion of cyclical time, and therefore infinite, prevailed in ancient wisdom, spread across the most different nations and regions of the planet. We all know that in India, in its spiritual and cultural tradition, there was, and still is, the doctrine of the yugas, the world ages. Satya or Krita Yuga, Golden Age, Treta Yuga, Silver Age, Dwapara Yuga, Bronze Age, Kali Yuga, Black Age, the current Yuga. The tetracycle will start again with a new Satya Yuga. To mention just a few examples, similar ideas have emerged and taken root in countries such as China or Persia, or in spiritualities such as Mazdaism, Taoism, or Buddhism. Still in India, even greater cycles are alluded to in texts like the Puranas, the Dvaipa cycles, referring to the globes of the planetary chain. We find the same in the Zen Avesta with the Karvashvars. There are also infinitely small cycles, of course. In ancient ages, and especially before the beginning of the Kali Yuga, the great sages, rishis, tirthankaras, masters of masters, were able to obtain direct knowledge of reality, whose logos they heard, in ways that today seem almost unbelievable to us, and that we can hardly even comprehend. In ancient Greece, Hesiod established a division of 5 ages: golden, silver, bronze, heroic, and iron. Later, Ovid suppressed the heroic age and also catalogued 4 ages, like those in Hindu texts. The idea of a cyclical time was held to be true in many Greek and Hellenic philosophical schools, not only the Stoic. The great sages of all times, the masters of compassion and wisdom, knew and know this better than anyone. In the Mahatma letters to AP Synod, it is stated that at favorable times, the masters of the compassion and wisdom hierarchy release expansive energies. At other times, their influence is mainly protective. In the proem of the Secret Doctrine, we can read the following words by Elena Blavatsky, which set forth the second proposition, that of periodicity, from which the cyclicity of everything that exists emerges. Let's recall. The eternity of the universe in toto as a boundless plane. Periodically, the playground of numberless universes, incessantly manifesting and disappearing, calling the manifesting stars and sparks of eternity. The eternity of the pilgrim is like a wink of the eye of self-existence. Book of Dzien. The appearance and disappearance of worlds is like a regular tidal ebb of flux and reflux. The second assertion of the Secret Doctrine is the absolute universality of that law of periodicity, of flux and reflux, ebb and flow, which physical science has observed and recorded in all departments of nature. An alternation such as that of day and night, life and death, sleeping and waking, is a fact so common, so perfectly universal and without exception, that it is easy to comprehend that in it we see one of the absolutely fundamental laws of the universe. More recently, however, the idea of linear time, not cyclical time, has been imposed on the world with its corollaries of alleged progress, unlimited production and work. In most immediate sense, this is a Western construction, but it is also being observed in many Eastern countries. This has led to a breakdown of natural rhythms, to the disruption of nature, and to a channeling of more and more effort and emphasis into professional work. Has become exhausting, has drained all human energies, which all must sum up to this. In the case of many people who have even had privileged access to culture, all the importance is put on doing things, on professional success and exteriorization to the detriment of the inner life. And yet, regardless of philosophies, spiritualities and religions, the cyclicality of existence is easily observed in nature and in ourselves. Failure to notice this shows the extent to which we have allowed ourselves to become entangled in artificiality, in unreality. Our heart cycles between expansion and contraction. What would happen if it only expanded? There is rising and falling tide. What would happen if only and always and increasingly there was a high tide. Our breathing flow as expiration and inspiration. Would it be normal? Would it be healthy? Would it be sustainable if there were only expiration? And of course, we could add the alternation of days and nights, wakefulness and sleep, sowing or planting and harvesting, the seasons, etc., etc. If the seed did not fall to the heart, if it did not putrefy there, how would new plants, new flowers, new fruits, new harvests be generated? And without eternal renewal of everything, allowing for reinvigoration and a new dawn, a new golden age after the decay of the forces of the previous cycle, would there be true progress? How if there would be no time and space for assimilation? Progress does exist, but in spiral form. If we understood this in all aspects of our existence, both individual and collective, we would free ourselves from many unnecessary and harmful anxieties and worries. We would accept crises as opportunities and natural events. We would not exhaust ourselves in swimming against the tide when it's time, it's irresistible, saving our energy for the right time, the time of expansion and growth, without trying to absolutize it, especially in a productive fanaticism that depletes us. We would not get so lost in arguments, criticisms, quarrels and blame, adjusting ourselves to the much wiser and perfect rhythms of nature. After all, we cannot harvest fruit in winter, nor can we leave sowing until summer. If we want to reap before we have sown, and let the plant sprout from the heart, grow and flower, or if we forget to sow, things will go wrong. This is a principle of prudence in the wisdom sense, very, very important. Some of us tends toward laziness, others towards impatience or hastiness, and both are inconvenient and pernicious extremes. On the other hand, this principle tells us we cannot always be the same. We cannot remain in monotony or produce in an uncontrolled way. We cannot be only increase or decrease. We can only be the rising or falling tide. We need to see the other pole, to see and live the other pole, to consider the other perspective, to identify with both movements of our pendulum in order to compensate for them. More remotely, the idea of continuous growth, which we want to maintain at all costs and at any price, derives largely from the notion of linear and finite time, and unfortunate inheritance of Jewish and Christian ideas. Nevertheless, in these same cultures and spiritualities, there are root tests that would allow another conception, that would make us welcome naturally the cycles, wherever they may be, and even more, perceive them as necessary. Of those tests, the most impressive is found in chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes, one of the biblical books, in this case from the Old Testament. to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. That which is already has been, that which is to be already has been, and God seeks what has been driven away. Of course, as theosophists, we cannot accept the idea of a personal God as assumed in the theologies of monotheistic religiosities or popular language. We maintain that everything is divine, that all are gods, even when amnesiac in their manifestation, and that words and notions such as limitless, absoluteness, infinity in one sense, and ordained wisdom or law in another sense, would not generate misunderstanding, much less the religious conflicts that so often stain our world. Nonetheless, what is valuable about the cultic test is independent of this. Common thought understands that what is external is what is real. Material things, things that we can hear, that we can see, that we can touch, that we can possess, that we can say, this is mine, that thing is that person's, etc. But from the esoteric point of view, from the point of view of theosophy, of the wisdom of the ages, what is real has little or nothing to do with it. What is real is what is permanent, not impermanent things of the outside world. It is that which is one, which is indivisible, not separate things of the external world. It is that which has no beginning or end, that which is eternal duration, as HPB call it. Things that have a beginning and an end are not real from the point of view of theosophy. Things which are not permanent are not real. Things that break unity, things that are compound, as they say in Buddhism, are not real. It is the truly real that we must emphasize as theosophists. For this reason and to this end, we must live within the ordered cycles of time. Sometimes people ask themselves, should we study more or meditate more, understand more or practice more? The answer, in the light of cyclicality, is clear. Both things are needed, each corresponding to a cycle, aspiration and inspiration, ebb and flow of the tide. May we do so, according to the exhortation of our dear Elena Petrovna Blavatskaya. Be theosophists, live theosophy. Thank you for your attention.
Дорогой наш друг,
Our dear friend, Mr. Anacleto, we thank you. Many thanks for being with us today. Thank you for your strength of will and for presenting theosophy and for the philosophy that you are trying to spread around the world. The cyclicity of time is one of the most complicated topics, but you were able to focus on the major points and to give a very clear understanding of these processes and to use the proven scientific base and talk about the cyclicity of time in the development of society and consciousness. Thank you so much.